Joining us now, Delaware Democratic Senator Chris Coons. Senator, thanks very much for joining us. We'll go on to some other foreign policy issues, but first of all, Joe Manchin not changing his mind on S1, saying it was constructive, whatever that means. Is the voting rights bill essentially dead?
Well, it was certainly disappointing news to hear from Senator Manchin in an editorial this past weekend that he does not intend to support the voting rights bill that I think is so urgent for us to take up and pass here in the U.S. Senate. I know Joe well. We've served together for over a decade. And now that we know clearly where he stands, I think we need to get to work on making sure we understand how we can work with Senator Manchin to get President Biden's bold agenda on infrastructure and on building back better moving forward, and have the discussions we now need to have about any possibility of moving forward on voting rights.
Now, turning to the January 6th report, you were there. Does the report, from what you've been able to see so far, reflect what you witnessed? Does it answer all your questions? What needs to be done? Should there still be a last-minute effort to try to get that bipartisan commission to answer more questions about the sources of the attack?
Well, the two committees of the Senate, Andrea, that released a bipartisan report this morning speak only to the things they were able to get answers to. The key questions that you were discussing earlier with John Bolton that we don't have answers to focus centrally on what was President Trump doing. What was his role in instigating and failing to act responsibly to the January 6th riot here in the Capitol? What was the role of the FBI and the National Guard? We need a bipartisan January 6th commission that will look at the broader questions that underlay that January 6th riot. The reports that came out this morning, the bipartisan report from two committees, focused on how to better protect the Capitol. While that's important, it's not a sufficient response to the January 6th crisis.
You know, I was just interviewing John Bolton, former national security advisor, who said that he doesn't think that there should be a summit with Vladimir Putin yet, that it's premature, that he doesn't think the president has a game plan. I asked, of course, about whether President Trump did when he met in Helsinki, and he said, no, of course he didn't. He was the national security advisor. But in any case, what is your response? You know, you're a senior member of Foreign Relations.
Well, President Biden, from the day he was elected to the day he was sworn in to today, has been relentlessly focused on delivering vaccines to the American people. More than 170 million Americans have now been vaccinated. And as he departs for his first overseas trip, he's going to spend the next 2 weeks rallying our closest allies. And there is no better time for him to meet one-on-one with Vladimir Putin and confront him about his destabilizing actions, his aggression against the entire West, than just following on the heels of what I believe will be successive, constructive meetings with the UK, with the EU, with NATO leadership. I think there's no better time for President Biden to make it clear in person to President Putin exactly what he intends to do to push back on Russian aggression.
What about the criticism from Bolton and others that he has waffled on his opposition to the pipeline, to the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, by suspending the sanctions on it?
Well, I think former National Security Advisor Bolton has his own complex record to defend on a number of issues. I do think that a key part of the conversations with our European allies will be about how to push back on Russia. And one of my concerns about Russia is that the Nord Stream pipeline will give them an expanded access into the German market. It's not yet completed. It's not yet fully operational. And I have confidence that President Biden, someone who, I'll remind you, came into the presidency with decades of experience in foreign policy and with deep personal relationships with European leaders, better understands than, frankly, almost any commentator what the best next steps are on these vital issues.
What are the pitfalls of this summit?
What are the pitfalls of a summit with President Putin? Well, as we saw with President Trump, someone who was ill-prepared, who didn't understand the context or the history, who didn't have a clear-eyed assessment of Putin and his agenda with regards to the West, ended up stumbling. That's what happened in Helsinki. President Biden, on the other hand, is very well briefed and very well informed. He will go to a meeting with Putin clear-eyed about the ways in which Russia under Putin has meddled in our elections, has undermined our national security and has tried to divide us from our vital allies in the West. That's why I think it'll be a purposeful and productive meeting. Frankly, Andrea, the other thing President Biden's doing is leading the global response to COVID-19. I just returned from a bipartisan trip to Taiwan and to South Korea, and I'll tell you, our vital partners and allies in that region were thrilled to receive donations. In the case of South Korea, 1 million vaccines badly needed. In the case of Taiwan, 750,000. I expect President Biden to lead the world effort in response to this dread pandemic, and that'll be another critical part of what he'll be doing in Europe, is mobilizing the world to this vital public health crisis and to meet this moment.
Senator Chris Coons, as always, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Andrea.
And border crossing